Is the Chancellor going to blow up the property market? Rachel Reeves is said to be planning to raid the property market to try to plug the £50 billion hole in public finances when she presents her budget at the end of November. So what or whom might the Chancellor target? Based on what I've been reading, first-time buyers, home movers, homeowners, downsizers and buy-to-let investors. So everyone really. Here are the things that we can look at. Number 1, national insurance on rental incomes. I think this could be lights out for a lot of landlords. We've already seen a massive hike in stamp duty for additional properties. Landlords will also be required to pay out thousands of pounds for energy efficiency improvements. And then the new Renters' Rights Act for England and Wales will place more responsibilities on landlords, but at the same time hugely restrict their ability to adapt to increasing costs of doing business. At best, rents will increase massively, and at worst, I fear that many private landlords will leave the market entirely. Number 2, replacing stamp duty. Most people, certainly the ex-Deputy Prime Minister, would agree that stamp duty is complicated and not particularly fair. But what would actually replace it? After all, it's a massive money spinner for the government. Indeed, stamp duty plus council tax raises £58 billion per year. One option is an annual property tax. That's a yearly levy on the portion of a home's value over a reported figure of £500,000 at a rate of round about 0.5% of the property's total value, with an additional 0.25% supplement over £1 million. But those rates would simply maintain the Chancellor's current income from stamp duty. To raise more money than that, the rates would actually have to be even higher. Of course, in Northern Ireland, the average house price is under £200,000, so most properties will escape entirely. But it could still impact larger properties and certain BT postcodes pretty hard. Don't forget that in London, the average house price is round about £561,000. So Labour won't just be targeting the rich elite, this would actually impact quite a lot of their own voters. Number 3, a mansion tax. Many home movers don't realise that by not having to pay capital gains tax when they sell their home, they're actually taking advantage of an exemption called private residence relief. That means that you don't have to pay capital gains tax on your principal residence when you sell. There is a suspicion that the Chancellor may remove this exemption and charge what is being called a mansion tax. That is, for properties over a certain value, you'd actually have to pay tax on the gain in value between when you bought the property and when you sell it. If you bought your home, say 40 years ago, and then decide to downsize, the usual 18 or 24% tax, depending on whether you're a higher rate or a standard rate taxpayer, could be absolutely punishing and may even affect your ability to downsize. We don't really know how bad this could be because we currently don't know how the Chancellor would define what a mansion actually is. The Times suggests that she's considering properties over 1.5 million. Again, this would catch a minuscule number of homes in Northern Ireland, but would still impact the overall market because people may simply decide not to sell up, which then creates a logjam on the housing ladder. If people don't downsize, people can't upsize, and first-time buyers therefore have nowhere to buy. Again, the Institute for Fiscal Studies observes that even if the mansion tax was set at a high level of 1.5 million, there would still be a significant suspicion that if the government needed to get a bit more money in, then it might just lower the threshold. Number 4 is land tax. This is a bit of a new one on me, but it's called land tax. Although it would be tortuously difficult to set the system up, it is suggested that it might actually be worth a look. The idea runs that if you pay tax on the land, regardless of what you do with it, then you're incentivized to use it for something, to either build on it or farm it or mine it, whatever. And you only pay tax on the land, not your efforts. which seems like quite an entrepreneurial idea actually. I think it's probably a step too far for our current generation of politicians, none of whom appear to have the vision or the imagination to do something really transformational. Number 5 is the residential nil rate ban. You could argue this isn't really a property issue, but it is related because it's inheritance tax. For most people, inheritance tax is the most evil of all taxes, and it's no secret that the government has been looking at new ways to tap into the inheritances of people who have worked hard and seen the value of their assets rise over their lifetime. We'll talk more about inheritance tax in another video, but I want to mention the residential nil rate ban, which allows homeowners to pass £175,000 or £350,000 if they're married of their primary residence tax-free to a direct descendant. Taken with the standard nil rate ban, this means that a married couple could pass on £1 million tax-free when their home is part of their estate. If the government removed that residential nil rate ban, it's reckoned that another 30,000 families would be dragged into paying inheritance tax at a benefit to the Treasury of £2 billion per annum. So what does this all mean? I have absolutely no idea, and nobody else does either. In terms of how it will affect the market and your ability to move house, it's a hard one to call. What we do know is that the property market hates uncertainty, and that's what we have at the moment. If the tax changes are punishing, people may even wait to move house, hoping that there's a different government at the next election who will likely then revisit any of the property tax changes. That's maybe the main conclusion to make here. Home movers shrink from uncertainty. My biggest personal worry is not which of the various options the Chancellor will dump on us, but rather how she will do it. Last autumn, conveyancing solicitors had less than 24 hours to deal with a massive hike in stamp duty for additional properties, and many transactions were affected. And of course, the pressure was on us. Aside from that, every time there's a big change in how property transactions are taxed, there is always a crushing, mentally damaging pressure on property solicitors to achieve the impossible. And every time this happens, and I count 4 or 5 times in the past decade, the industry and the profession are damaged. The Chancellor won't want to give us much warning to stop people immediately adjusting their property ownership to avoid whatever their new tax liability is going to be. But making massive changes virtually overnight is always unworkable. Let me know what you think, and for more commentary on the budget and how it will affect your moving house, give us a follow.